What's up? I hope we're all having a good day or night, depending on where you are or what time you're watching this right now. So tonight we are going to be doing some reading from this book right here. This is like I don't have a lot of options when it comes to reading. Like it's either this or like a bunch of different kids books. That's really all I got with me. So I'm not a huge reader type of person, So this is what I got for tonight. And this is one of my 3 Skyrim books. So this is volume 3, though. This is the Arcane, so that has to do with like the magic and religion and stuff like that of Skyrim. But I'm still stuck on volume 1 because, like I said, I'm not a huge reader, so I haven't really even dived into this one at all myself yet. So yeah, but it is Skyrim, though, and as y'all know, I mean, I'm into it. So that's what we're going to be doing tonight, is just reading some of this. And with these books, it's just like a whole bunch of different stories and things about Skyrim just kind of rolled up into one big book. So it's like every few pages is just like a different piece of information, different story. So it's not like one continuous thing. So what I figured I could do is just like kind of maybe jump around and just read a few different things in this book, So yeah. Anyway, let's get going. And like with all 3 books, the front pages like this, for all 3 of them, it's the map of the game, along with the last page as well, which is pretty cool. So yeah. First, let's go to the table of contents and figure out what we're going to be reading. And this is why I have the camera facing the table as well instead of me. Not for y'all to read it, obviously, it's way too tiny. But it's so y'all can see the really good artwork that is in these books, like this. It's just really cool. So I want y'all to see that. So let's see, in this section here, it's stuff about the Magicka. Stuff down here is the religion. And then we've got this 2920, the last year of the first era. And then Aedra and Daedra over here. So what if we read something from each section? How about that? Yeah. And I probably won't turn the book around every time for the cool artistry stuff to look at, because this is my second time recording. The first time I did it and I knocked down the webcam and that made a huge thud, and it was a disaster, let me tell you. But luckily I did it pretty early on, so I didn't have that much done anyway. So, but yeah, just to avoid that risk as much as possible, because I knocked it down while turning the book, to avoid that risk as much as possible, I'll still turn it around a few times probably, but for stuff like this, to where it's not like anything really happening or anybody to see, to where you can kind of make it out either looking down or up at it, leave it alone. But anyway, first section we have Magicka. And there's a lot of different things we could read here, like The Apprentice's Assistant, or Trials of Saint Alicia, or Souls Black and White. A lot of these are honestly only 1 or 2 pages long, so that's like how the majority of the things in this book are, honestly. So how about we do effects of the Elder Scrolls? Because Elder Scrolls are like a insanely huge important part of Skyrim. So because you got the Sun Scroll, blood scroll. And they're all very important. And honestly, I can kind of tell you the effects right now. If you read it, you could go blind, or you could see into the past, or see fate, basically, you know. That's just like the instant effects, basically. But, yeah, let's read that. So that's on page 51, and it goes to page 53. So, like I said, only a couple pages. Alright, effects of the Elder Scrolls. So, let's just go ahead and start reading. But before I do, I will say this. I know I made like only one other video reading from this type of book, my volume 1 book, and by the end, my jaw was so insanely sore. Like, I know I talk a lot for my videos, but that was just non-stop reading, which takes a different toll on me, I guess. Because, man, it was tough, but I think this time was kind of more chopped up. Might be easier. So anyway, effects of the Elder Scrolls. It is widely known among scholars that the Elder Scrolls entail a certain hazard in their very reading. The mechanism of the effects has, at present, been largely unknown. Theories of hidden knowledge and divine retribution were the subject of idle speculation with little investigation. I, Justinius Palhunius, have undertaken to thoroughly document the ailments afflicted by the Elder Scrolls on their readers, though though a unified theory of how they manifest continues to elude me and remains a subject for future study. I have grouped the effects into 4, finding that the avenue of experience depends largely upon the mind of the reader. If this is unclear, I hope that a proper dichotomy, something like that, will lay it plain. So, group the first. For one who has received no training in the history of or nature of the Elder Scrolls, the scroll itself is effectively inert. No prophecy can be scried nor knowledge obtained. While the scroll will not impart learning to the uninformed, nor will it afflict them in any adverse fashion. Visually, the scroll will appear to be awash in odd lettering and symbols. Those who know their astronomy often claim to recognize constellations in the patterns and connections, but such conjecture is impossible to further investigate, since the very nature of the study necessitates unlearned subjects. Group the second, the unguarded intellects. It is this second group that realizes the greatest danger from attempting to read the scrolls. These are subjects who have an understanding of the nature of the Elder Scrolls and possess sufficient knowledge to actually read what is inscribed there. They have not, however, developed adequate discipline to stave off the mind-shattering effect of having a glimpse of infinity. These unfortunate souls are struck immediately and irrevocably and completely blind. Such is the price for overreaching one's faculties. It bears mentioning, though, that with the blindness also comes a fragment of that hidden knowledge. Whether the future, the past, or the deep natures of being is dependent on the individual and their place in the greater spheres. But the knowledge does come. Okay, so I think the Dragon Priest that we met during the Dawnguard questline, he was a part of the second group because he could read it and he got a part of it, but he did go blind. And the first group is like, I'd say the majority of people in Skyrim, people that just have no knowledge of the scroll, and if they were to look at it, it would just be scribbles to them. And I think I knew that. Yeah, like somebody tried to read one, but they couldn't see what it said or anything like that. I don't remember if like that was a mod follower that did that or an actual character. But I remember somebody trying to read it and just saying like, yeah, it's just a bunch of gibberish to me or something like that. Okay, group the third, mediated understanding. Alone in Tamriel, it would appear that only the cult of the ancestor Moth has discovered the discipline to properly guard one's mind when reading the scrolls. Their novitiates must undergo the most rigorous mental cultivation, and they often spend a decade or more at the monastery, before being allowed to read their first Elder Scroll. The monks say this is for the initiates' own protection, as they must have witnessed many unguarded intellects among their more eager ranks. With appropriate fortitude, these readers also receive blindness, though at a far lesser magnitude than the unguarded. Their vision fogs slightly, but they retain shape, color, and enough acuity to continue to read mundane texts. The knowledge they gain from the scroll is also tempered somewhat. It requires stages of meditation and reflection to fully appreciate and express what one saw. Alright, so group 3 sounds like just a more experienced version of group 2. And they can also handle a little more as well. They just kind of gotta take it slow, basically. Okay. Group the fourth, illuminated understanding. Between the previous group and this one exists a continuum that has, at present, only been traversed by the monks of the Ancestor Moth. With continued readings, the monks become gradually more and more blind, but receive greater and more detailed knowledge as they spend their waking hours pondering the revelations. They also receive a further degree of mental fortitude. There is for every monk a day of penultimate. I don't know how to pronounce that. Penultimate reading, when the only knowledge the Elder Scroll imparts is that the monk's next reading shall be his last. Ooh, that's ominous. For each monk, the penultimate reading comes at a different and unknowable time. Preliminary work has been done to predict the occurrence by charting the severity of an individual monk's blindness, but all who reach these later stages report that the increasing blindness seems to taper with increased readings. Some pose the notion that some other unseen sense is, in fact, continuing to diminish at this upper range, but I shall leave such postulations to philosophers. To prepare for his ultimate reading, a monk typically withdraws to seclusion in order to reflect upon a lifetime of revelations and appoint his mind for reception of his last. Upon this final reading, he is forever blinded, as sure as those unguarded ones who raced to knowledge. The illuminated one, though, has retained his understanding over a lifetime, and typically possesses a more integral notion of what has been revealed to him. It is hoped that this catalog will prove useful to those who wish to further our mortal understanding of the Elder Scrolls. The Moth Priests remain aloof about these matters, taking the gradual debilitation that comes with reading as a point of pride. May this serve as a useful starting point for those hoping to take up such a study. And it's dictated to Anstius Mechin, 4th of last seed in the 126th year of the Second Era. Alright, well, looks like there's two separate stories in one page, and then at the bottom we got a really cool picture. Looks like it's this might be the Soul Cairn down here. I did a video where I was playing Skyrim and I ended up going here, so this is kind of what it looks like. Got a dragon, like a skeletal dragon flying through right here. Yeah. Looks like there's a person right here trying to face off with the dragon. It's pretty cool. Okay. Atrium of Sovngarde. Pretty short. It's only this long. Okay. Oh wait, no. No, it's not. That's a back page. Atrium of Sovngarde. In a few hours, I will likely be dead. Alrighty then. My men and I, Nords of Skyrim, all will soon join with the Emperor's legions to attack the Imperial City. The Aldmeri are entrenched within our losses will be severe. It is a desperate gambit, for if we do not reclaim the city, we will lose the war. Last night I prayed to mighty Talos for courage and strength in the battle to come. In these last cold hours before the sun rises, I sit down to write this account of a dream I had not long after. I believe this dream was the answer to my prayers, and I will soon pass along the wisdom it contained to my kinsmen, for the battle they will fight in the years after my passing. In the dream, I walked through the mists toward the sound of laughter, merriment, and the songs of the north. The mists soon cleared, and before me lay a great great chasm. Waters thundered over its brim, and so deep it was, I could not see the bottom. A great bridge made of whalebone was the only means to cross, and so I took it. It was only a few steps onto the bridge that I encountered a warrior, grim and strong. I am soon master of trials, he said to me, his voice booming and echoing upon the walls of the high mountains all around us. With a wave, he bade me pass on. I knew in my heart that I was granted passage only because I was a visitor. Should the hour come when I return here after my mortal life, the legends say that I must best this dread warrior in single combat. Beyond the bridge, a great stone longhouse rose up before me, so tall as to nearly touch the clouds. Though it took all my strength, I pushed open the towering oaken door and beheld a torch-lit feast hall. Here were assembled the greatest heroes of the Nords, all drinking mead poured from the great kings and singing battle songs. Suckling pigs turned on a long iron spit over a roaring fire. My mouth watered at the smell of roast meat, and my heart was glad to hear the songs of old. Come forth, cried out a hoary man, who sat upon a high wooden chair. This I knew to be Ysgramor, father of Skyrim and the Nords. I approached and knelt before him. You find yourself in Sovngarde, all of the honor dead. Now what would you have of me, son of the North? He bellowed. I seek counsel, said I, for tomorrow we fight a desperate battle and my heart is full of fear. Ysgramor raised his tankard to his lips and drank until the cup was empty. Then he spoke once more. Remember this always, son of the North. A Nord is judged not by the manner in which he lived, but the manner in which he died. With that, he cast aside his flagon, raised his fist in the air, and roared a great cheer. The other heroes rose to their feet and cheered in answer. The sound still rang in my ears when I awoke. I gathered my men and told them of my vision. The words seemed to fill their hearts with courage. The horns are blowing and the banners are raised. The time has come to muster. May Talos grant us victory this day, and if I am found worthy, may I once again look upon the great feast hall. And that's from Scarden Free Winter. Scarden Free Winter. That's pretty good. I like that one. Maybe about Sun's Dawn. Sun's Dawn. Yeah. Alright, that's on 119. Alright. Okay. This one's gonna take a minute. This one's a little longer. But this one's about like 4 or 5 pages. Okay. This is Three Suns Dawn. Three Suns Dawn, 2920, the Isle of Artaeum, Somerset. Sortha Sil watched the initiates float one by one up to the awesome tree, taking a fruit or flower from its high branches before dropping back to the ground with varying degrees of grace. He took a moment while nodding his head in approval to admire the day. The whitewashed statue of Cyrabane, which the great mage was said to have posed for in ancient days, stood at the precipice of the cliff overlooking the bay. Pale, purple broscato flowers waved to and fro in the gentle breeze. Beyond the ocean ended the misty border between Artrium and the main island of Somerset. By and large, acceptable, he proclaimed as the last student dropped her fruit in his hand. With a wave of his hand, the fruit and flowers were back in the tree. With another wave, the students had formed into position in a semicircle around the sorcerer. He pulled a fall. Oh my gosh. I'm losing it. He pulled a small, fibrous ball about a foot in diameter from his white robes. What is this? The students understood this test. It asked them to cast a spell of identification on the mysterious object. Each initiate closed his or her eyes and imagined the ball in the realm of the universal truth. Its energy had a unique resonance, as all physical and spiritual matters does. A negative aspect, a duplicate version, relative paths, true meaning, a song of the cosmos, a texture in the fabric of space, a facet of being that has always existed and always will exist. A ball, said a young Nord named Welleg, which brought giggles from some of the younger initiates, but a frown from most, including Salthasil. If you must be stupid, at least be amusing, growled the sorcerer, and then looked at a young dark-haired Altmer lass who looked confused. Lilatha, do you know? It's Grom, said Lilatha uncertainly. What the Drew Mev? What the Drew Mev after they have Carvanasm, but very good nonetheless, said Sothasil. Now, tell me, what does that mean? I don't know, admitted Lilatha. The rest of the students also shook their heads. There are layers to understanding all things, said Sothasil. The common man looks at an object and fits it into a place in his way of thinking. Those skilled in the old ways, in the way of the Psijic and mysticism, can see an object and identify it by its proper role. But one more layer is needed to be built back to achieve understanding. You must identify the object by its role and its truth and interpret that meaning. In this case, this ball is indeed Grom, which is a substance created by the Treu, an underwater race in the north and western parts of the continent. For 1 year of their life, they undergo Carvanism. When they walk upon the land, following that, they return to the water and meth, or devour the skin and organs they needed for land dwelling. Then they vomit it up into little balls like like this: Grom, Trail, Vomit. The students looked at the ball a little queasily. Saw the Silt always loved this lesson. Alright, look at that. Got a little lute. This is like the guitar in Skyrim. Or like. Yeah. Or more of like a. I guess more of like a violin, maybe. It's the lute, though. Okay, this is Four Sons Dawn, 2920, the Imperial City, Cyrodiil. Spies, muttered the Emperor, sitting in his bath, staring at a lump on his foot. All around me, traitors and spies. His mistress, Rija, washed his back, her legs wrapped around his waist. She knew after all these many years when to be sensual and when to be sexual. Okay, when he was in a mood like this, it was best to be calmly, soothingly, and seductively sensual, and not to say a word unless he asked her a direct question. Which he did. What do you think when a fellow steps on his Imperial Majesty's foot and says, "I'm sorry, Your Imperial Majesty"? Don't you think, "Pardon me, Your Imperial Majesty" is more appropriate? I'm sorry. Well, that almost sounds like the bastard Argonian was sorry, "I am His Imperial Majesty." That he hopes we lose the war with Morrowind. That's what it sounds like. What would make you feel better? Asked Rija. Would you like him flogged? He is only, as you say, the battle chief of Solrest. It would teach him to mind where he's stepping. My father would have flogged him. My grandfather would have had him killed. The Emperor grumbled. But I don't mind if they all step on my feet, provided they respect me and don't plot against me. You must trust someone, said the other girl. Only you, smiled the Emperor, turning slightly to give Rija a kiss. And my son, Joylek, I suppose, though I wish you were a little more cautious. And your counsel and the pot and eight, asked Rija. A pack of spies and a snake, laughed the Emperor, kissing his mistress again. As they began to make love, he whispered, as long as you're true, I can handle the world. Well, alright then. That got a little heated, but like, not in the bad way. I guess this is just like a bunch of different stories that happen to be on Sun's Dawn. Or different Sun's Dawns, I guess. Alright, this is 13 Sun's Dawn in Mournhold, Morrowind. Durala stood at the black, bejeweled city gates. A wind howled around her, but she felt nothing. The Duke had been furious upon hearing his favorite mistress was pregnant and cast her from his sight. She tried again and again to see him, but his guards turned her away. Finally, she returned to her family and told them the truth. If only she had lied and told them she did not know who the father was. A soldier, a wandering adventurer, anyone. But she told them that the father was the Duke, a member of the house in Indoril, and they did what she knew they would have to do, as proud members of the house Redoran. Upon her hand was burned the sign of expulsion her weeping father had branded on her. But the Duke's cruelty hurt her far more. She looked out the gate and into the wide winter plains, twisted sleeping trees and skies without birds. No one in Morrowind would take her in now. She must go far away. With slow, sad steps, she began her journey. Wow, that one was just insanely depressing. So we went from one that was like a cool magic lesson to another one that was about like a hot little love scene for the Emperor. But he was mad because somebody stepped on his foot. And then now we just got done with a pregnant lady who was rejected by these are just all kinds of different stories. Alright, this is 16 Sons Dawn in Sinchal, Anaquina, or modern day Elsewhere. What troubles you? Asked Queen Hasama, noticing her husband's sour mood. At the end of most lovers' days, he was in an excellent mood, dancing in the ballroom with all the guests. But tonight he retired early. When she found him, he was curled in the bed, frowning. That blasted bard's tale about Polydor and Aloysia put me in a rotten state, he growled. Why did he have to be so depressing? But isn't that the truth of the tale, my dear? Weren't they doomed because of the cruel nature of the world? It doesn't matter what the truth is. He did a rotten job of telling a rotten tale, and I'm not going to let him do it anymore. King Drozel sprang from the bed. His eyes were rheumy with tears. Where did they say he was from again? I believe Gilverdale in easternmost Valenwood, said the Queen, shaken. My husband, what are you going to do? Drozel was out of the room in a single spring, bounding up the stairs to his tower. If Queen Hasama knew what her husband was going to do, she did not try to stop him. He had been erratic of late, prone to fits and even occasional seizures, but she never suspected the depths of his madness and his loathing for the bard and his tale of the wickedness and perversity found in mortal man. Oh, that was it. Wait. Yeah, that was it. Okay, so that one was about an emperor starting to go crazy because of a bard. Alright. This is 19 Sons Dawn in Gilverdale, Valenwood. Listen to me again, said the old carpenter. If cell 3 holds worthless brass, then cell 2 holds the gold key. If cell 1 holds the gold key, then cell 3 holds worthless brass. If cell 2 holds worthless brass, then cell 1 holds the gold key. I understand, said the lady. You told me, and so cell 1 holds the gold key, right? No, said the carpenter. Let me start from the top. Mama, said the little boy, pulling on his mother's sleeve. Just one moment, dear. Mother's talking, she said, concentrating on the riddle. You said cell 3 holds the golden key if cell 2 holds worthless brass, right? No, said the carpenter patiently. Cell 3 holds worthless brass if cell 2. Mama, cried the boy. His mother finally looked. A bright red mist was pouring over the town in a wave, engulfing building after building in its wake. Striding before was a red-skinned giant, the Daedra Molak Ball. He was smiling. Well, my goodness, that took an insanely dark turn at the end there. I thought the little boy was gonna know what the answer to the riddle was, but no, it's the demon Molak Ball coming to destroy the town. That took an insanely hard twist and turn at the end there. Okay, last one. 29 Sons Dawn in Gilverdale, Valenwood. Almalexia stopped her steed in the vast moor of mud to let him drink from the river. He refused to even seemed repelled by the water. It struck her as odd they had been making excellent time from Mornold, and surely he must be thirsty. She dismounted and joined her retinue. Where are we now? She asked. One of her ladies pulled out a map. I thought we were approaching a town called Gilverdale. Alamexia closed her eyes and opened them again quickly. The vision was too much to bear. As her followers watched, she picked up a piece of brick and a fragment of bone and clutched them to her heart. We must continue to Artrium, she said quietly. here continues in First Seed. Okay, so I think... Oh, and here's a cool little dagger. I think this entire section... Let's go back to the table of contents. I think this entire story, this entire section here, the entire last year of the first era with First Seed and Sunstone and all that is like a continuous tale of like different points of view from like the same time, you know? Because the last one we just read like took place like 10 days after Molag Bal came crashing down on that last story before the last one. So that might be what that is. But anyway, that one's done. So now one more, Atra and Daedra. I'm gonna pick a short one because this video is almost 40 minutes long now. Let's do how about we do The Restless Death. The Restless Death on 213. This is all there is to this one. So this is Opusculus Lama, or Opusculus Lame Bal to Mesamorte. That's his name. A brief account of Lame Bal and the Restless Death. As Brighter, I always have a hard time reading like these insanely fancy letters, you know, that have like shapes and characters to it and stuff. Like at the beginning of pages, I sometimes have a hard time, but it's an A, so as brighter grows light, darker becomes shadow. So it passed that the Daedra Molag Bal looked on Arkay and thought that Atra, prideful of his dominion o'er the death of man in Mur, and it was soothed. Bal, whose fear is the wanton oppression and entrapment of mortal souls, sought to thwart Arkay, who knew that not man, nor Mur, nor beast folk of all Nirn could escape eventual death. The Atra was doubtless of his fear, and so Molag Bal set upon Nirn the best death. Tamriel was still young and filled with danger and wondrous magic when Bal walked in the aspect of a man and took a virgin, Lame Beolfag, from the Nedic peoples. Savage and loveless, Bal profaned her body, and her screams became the shrieking winds, which still haunt certain winding fjords of Skyrim. Shedding a lone droplet of blood on her brow, Bal left Nirn, having sown his wrath. Violated and comatose, Lame was found by nomads and cared for. A fortnight hence, the nomad weird woman enshrouded Lame in pall, for she had passed into death. In their way, the nomads built a bonfire to immolate the husk. That night, Lame rose from her funeral pyre and sat upon the coven still aflame. She ripped the throats of the women, ate the eyes of the children, and raped their men as as cruelly as Bal had ravished her. And so, Lame, who is known to us as Blood Matron, imprecated her foul aspect upon the folk of Tamriel, and begat a brood of countless abominations, from which came the vampires, most cunning of the night horrors. And so was the scourge of underneath wrought upon Tamriel, cruelly mocking Arkay's rhythm of life and death through all the coming eras of the Et Ada, and for all his sadness, Arkay knew this could not be undone. My goodness, what an evil story to leave off on. My goodness, dude. So, the Blood Matron is what created the vampires, and she was, violated by Molag Bal, a demon, and she rose up as a monster and killed women and children and, violated the men. Like, dude, that is just literally everything about this story was just evil, dude. My goodness, what a crazy single page story to leave the video off on. Wow. Well, there you have it. Those were all four stories. One from the last era, one from Adra and Daedra, and one from Magicka, and one from the religion. So that's about it. So thank you all very much for watching. Please, if you listen to the whole thing, let me know which story or which thing was your favorite. I think mine might have been the one with the arrow with those 5 different stories there. That one might have been my favorite. But I also liked reading about the effects of the Elder Scrolls. But anyway, and that last one was just insane. So yeah, anyway, again, thank you all very much for watching. I hope you all are feeling much more well rested and sleepy compared to before you clicked on this video. I hope you all have a great rest of your day or night, and that's pretty much it. So let me know if you want me to do some more reading from this book or one of my other 2 volumes. Let's see, this is the Arcane, and then volume 1 volume 1 is the histories, and volume 2 is Man, Mer, and Beast, which might have a lot of interesting stuff in it. Honestly, I haven't really looked at that one yet either, so but yeah, anyway, that's about it. So yeah, again, thank you all for watching, and let me know overall what you all might want to see next. And yeah, so trying to think if there's anything else to mention. I don't think there is, as far as videos to come. I know I gotta do a roleplay or something soon, so look out for that, but we'll see. Anyway, have a great rest of your day or night, and I will see you all in the next one. So thanks again